So we were heading to the airport, and on my way to the airport, I realized that my wallet was at home. I left my wallet at home, and so in order to try to save myself, I went and I went looking for my wallet. So I went home and I was like, no, 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 we got to go back. I can't go to the airport without my wallet because my ID was in there. Now I had my passport, so I really technically could have kept going, but I just couldn't. I don't know if anybody's understood the. Uh-oh. I don't know if anybody's ever understood the anxiety of going to the airport without your wallet and no credit cards, no nothing. So we went home and I spent 20 minutes looking for my wallet, looking for my credit cards and so I could not find it. I have not lost all my stuff in like probably 20 years. Like I've never done that because I literally put everything in the same place every single time. So I haven't lost my wallet since probably the 90s or something, right? So I'm just kind of feeling some anxiety from not having my money. And anyway, but I couldn't find it. And my wife was texting me. She's like, Boyce, we're gonna be late. Boyce, we're gonna be late, right? And I'm like, no, no, okay, give me 1 second, give me 1 second. So I'm looking through the house and I don't find it. And so anyway, long story short, I go finally get in the car and I just feel defeated. I mean, I literally feel like a soldier who had to leave his friend, his dying friend on the battlefield, but yet you put the whole platoon in danger now because you insisted on going back to look for your friend when the commander told you that it's really time to go. So long story short, I went and got in the car and I'm just feeling kind of sad. And we go to the airport. Now I'm in big trouble because if you know Chicago traffic, it's crazy. We're almost over an hour from the airport, so we're speeding through the traffic, and we get to the airport, and then guess what happens after that? We miss our flight. So we then missed our flight. And so that's strike two, right? So now I'm feeling really bad because my wife had to teach her class and I totally messed up her day and I'm just feeling horrible about that, right? So so I just try my best to cheer myself up. I have like these little methods I use to keep my mood elevated, especially when you grow up. I grew up with depression as a kid and so to fight that depression, I work extremely hard to be consciously optimistic and this is where consciousness comes into play, right? You can consciously mold and shape yourself into what you want yourself to be. The reason I thought to create a financial consciousness training is because your conscious mind can program your subconscious mind. So I consciously program myself to try to look on the bright side, be optimistic, figure out how I'm feeling, be in touch with my emotions at all times, but then get the right emotions that are going to help me achieve the right objective, right? So I'm going through all of this because I'm feeling some loss, right? Like loss is a real thing. Financial loss is a real thing. This is why in our prime class we talk extensively about how to deal with loss. Now, by the way, if you are in prime, this ain't a week for loss. You might have some FOMO, but this week, I don't know if you guys have been following some of these stocks that we sell options on. They've been doing extremely well this week. I mean, literally blowing up and going insane. So now you have to go do the rollovers and stuff like that. If you want to join us where we talk about which stocks to sell options on, it's a great way to generate extra income if that's of interest to you. You can go to drboyceprime.com. That's drboyceprime.com. So anyway, so I get to the airport and I lost my wallet, missed my flight, sit around all day. We finally get on a plane. We fly into Vegas. We're sitting there kind of, we're a little bit bougie. We fly first class. I ain't gonna lie. And so when you get spoiled by first class and you go to coach, it's a little bit tough. So we're cramped in our little seats, but it's okay. I'm not complaining. I get to cuddle with my wife, and that's just the best feeling on earth. So we get to the airport, and let me tell you, I got to tell you all this story. So I'm walking through the airport and I got my face on my phone. Now my phone, I'm stupid with my phone. I didn't have a case on it, and as a result of me not having a case, of course I dropped it 4 or 5 times. It's all cracked up and messed up and everything, and so my phone's on its last leg. So I'm walking through the airport, staring at my phone, and I'm not looking up. Well, one of my friends sees me. My friend, he's an attorney out of Tulsa named Demario Solomon Simmons. And Demario, he's really a lot like a Ben Crump. He's really that good. He's very sharp. In fact, he works with Ben Crump on a lot of cases. He's just not as famous. So Demario sees me and kind of as a joke, Demario bumps me, right? And he's a football player. He played for Oklahoma. So he bumps me really hard. Like, so my first reaction is like, who's this dude bumping me? And then the second thing that happens at the same time is my phone flies up in the air. like slow motion, and then smack lands on the ground, right? And my phone breaks. The screen cracks. I get the green screen of death. I can't use my phone. So now I'm in Vegas with no wallet, with no credit cards, no ID, no cell phone. Talk about a messed up day. Oh my God. So so anyway, if you want to know how the story ended, I did go to the Verizon store, and I just again I stayed optimistic, and I sat down with the Verizon guy, and you'll be happy to know I got a brand new iPhone, and I did get the case put on it, and I even got some other stuff to replace what I lost. So yesterday was just a weird day. I don't think I've ever had that many weird things happen on the same day. But let me tell you, Vegas is beautiful out here right now. They got the Super Bowl, and the big dome is outside, and it's kind of crazy. So anyway, let's jump into our consciousness exercise for today. First thing I want to talk about is how many of you have seen this lawsuit? Give me a yes if you've seen this lawsuit between Snoop Dogg and Master P and Walmart. Has anybody seen this lawsuit? Give me a yes if you've taken notice of this or observed this at all. Well, Snoop Dogg and Master P are in the middle of this interesting lawsuit where they are suing Walmart and Post cereal over their cereal called Snoop cereal. Or Snoop Loops, or and it's Brodus Foods. Calvin Brodus is the name of Master P. Master P, I don't know him very well. I saw him last week at an event. We both spoke there, and he's a great guy. And I took a picture with him, but don't let the picture fool you. We're not friends. I don't know him like that, but I don't dislike him. I like him a lot. And so, and Snoop, I've never met. I know Ice Cube and stuff, but I don't know Snoop Dogg. And I know Dr. Dre hates me because I challenged his I a couple years about 5-6 years ago I challenged his massive donation to USC, and I said I think that I don't understand why we don't give that money to a black school, because USC is gonna, if you look at their budget, USC will spend all that money in about a week, whereas in HBCU could take that money and make it last for 100 years. So I didn't understand that, honestly, and I wrote an article about it. Over 1 million people read the article. And one of Dr. Dre's good friends told me that he blocked him on Facebook because he shared the article on his page. I wasn't trying to be mean. I was trying to be honest. I don't understand some of our economic decisions, to be honest with you. But anyway, so going back to Snoop Dogg and Master P. So they're filing this lawsuit, and they filed this suit, and what they were arguing, I think, is really interesting. This is something that I want you to understand in terms of a consciousness exercise. So here's what's going on. I'm going to read some of this to you and kind of like give you the lowdown on it. It says Master P and Snoop Dogg are suing Walmart and food manufacturer Post Consumer Brands, accusing the companies of deliberately keeping their cereal product from consumers to hinder its success. A lawsuit filed by the duo Tuesday alleged that both companies acted in a diabolical and underhanded manner by hiding boxes of Snoop cereal in stock rooms. Coding the product to not be put on store shelves. This in turn prevented Snoop Dogg and Master P from profiting off the cereal sales. Okay, so I'm not going to read more. There's more out there if you want to read it. So let me just summarize what appeared to be going on based on what I've read. So what happened initially was that Walmart or Post cereal, I guess they make a bunch of products from, I don't know if they make, I guess cornflakes and stuff, where they make a lot of cereal. I can't even name all the cereal products. Let me see if I can find a list of Post cereal products. It's a lot. I don't even know what they are, but I know that they're everywhere. Let me see here. So Post is a cereal behemoth. I bet you they make at least 10 different cereal brands. So let's see what comes up here. I'm doing the web search real quick. Let's see. The list here is, drum roll, please. Okay, it's taking a second for it to come up, so let's give it a second. So Post makes a lot of cereal. So the first thing that Post offered a Master P, it was to buy the cereal brand. They said, this is a great product. We like it. We can integrate it into, there's that word integration, right? We've talked about integration. We can integrate your product into our ecosystem because we know how to sell cereal, but we need to own the company. So they made them some offer to buy the company, and they said, They basically said no. They said no. We believe in things like generational wealth. We want to own this for our kids, so we don't want to sell. So Post, which is a company that owns a lot of different cereals, some of which you've heard of, some of which you haven't. A cereal called Barbara's. Let's see, Bran Flakes, Chips Ahoy. Let's see, Grape Nuts, Honey Bunches of Oats, Honeycomb. What are some others that are in here? Oreos, Pebbles, Raisin Bran, Shredded Wheat. They have Snoop cereal here on the list, but they don't own it. Let's see, and a few other cereals. So anyway, so Post says we'd like to buy you, Snoop and Master P, because they are into ownership and generational wealth. They say no, thank you. We don't want to be purchased, but we do want to partner with you. We don't want to be an employee. We don't want to be a subordinate. We want to be a partner with you. And I think that that's perfectly fine. That all makes perfect sense. But remember, as I was explaining to you all before, integration itself was not a bad idea, but the problem is that they didn't integrate you to make you a partner. They integrated you to be a subordinate. They integrated you to be an employee. They integrated you to be a consumer. They integrated you because landlords need people that are going to rent their apartments and things like that. They didn't integrate you to come in and become some sort of an equity, a significant equity holder in this thing called America. So effectively, what I believe that Post did, I wouldn't be surprised if this is what was going on. They said, okay, all right, cool, we get it, bro. We understand. You don't want to sell your brand, you want to keep it as a legacy for your family. Great. But then what they said was on the surface, they said, okay, no problem. We'll integrate your product into our ecosystem. There's that word integration. I'm using it consciously and intentionally. So you'll understand the connection here. We're going to integrate your cereal into our other cereals that we already sell. So we're going to integrate the cereal that you own into the group of cereals that we own. And we're going to treat the cereal you own the same as we treat the cereals that we own. Same distribution, same marketing, same everything. How many of y'all believe, just from a human nature standpoint, how many of y'all believe that that's really going to be the case? I mean, how many of y'all really believe that they're going to treat a brand that you own the same way that they'll treat a brand that they own? And I really think, and I get it, I understand that the lawsuit is going to bring race into the equation, and this is racial, just in a different way than what we think. Like we think a lot of us will think it's racial in the sense that they did it because we're black, they don't like black people. I don't see it that way. I see it as capitalism 101. They didn't just do it because they're white. They did it because they're capitalists. But the reason they could exploit you because you're black is because black people have gotten the bottom. We've been the bottom dwellers of a capitalist system. We've gotten the short end of the stick in American capitalism for reasons going all the way back to slavery and the things that we argue about when we talk about reparations. So it's racial, just not in the way that you think. Like a lot of times we think that something's racial because we say, well, we found out that he doesn't like black people and that's why he wouldn't promote Snoop cereal. No, it's much deeper than that. It's deeper in the sense that what they're basically saying is they're really honestly, they're saying the same thing that a lot of you might say. They're doing the same thing a lot of you might do. They're saying, wait a minute, so you don't want to let us buy your product, but you want us to take the multi-billion-dollar distribution system that we've created with our partners at Walmart, that we put $100 billion into developing, and you want us to just share it with you like you didn't, without you having any skin in the game. You didn't invest a nickel to build these 10,000, 50,000 grocery stores across the country. You didn't put anything into helping us build out our distribution system, but yet you want full access to it just like you're one of us. That just doesn't work. And I hate saying it. I don't know how to and I agree with you, Ginger. It really does come down to what the contract says, right? So maybe that Ben Crump's a great attorney, by the way. I mean, he's going to get them some money, and I think that's going to be great for them. I'm happy for them. I want them to win this lawsuit. I really do. But it really parallels, in my opinion, the situation with Diddy and the vodka brand. The vodka brand, kind of said to Diddy, Diddy was saying it's racist because you're not the same argument, honestly. You're not promoting my product the way you promote other products. Right. And what they kind of came back with, which was to some extent a kind of valid argument, is they said, Well, you didn't put no money into this. Like you didn't put a nickel. I think they said Diddy put like $1,000 or something. I could have sworn that's the number I saw. It was a very small number that into distributing and promoting the tequila. But you brought some weight, right? You brought your Diddy brand, and that's beautiful. But your brand is an asset. And for an asset to have value and to generate cash flow, the asset must be managed. You got to work the asset. You got the horse, but somebody's got to ride the horse. You got the land, somebody's got to work the land. Do you understand? So remember this, that in a product, in terms of making money from a product, you have three stages. You have production, distribution, and monetization. Production is the creation of the product. Distribution is distributing the product to potential customers, getting it out there, getting it on store shelves. And then monetization is converting the distribution into actual money. So what it sounds to me like they were doing, and again, I'm not saying I agree with what they were doing. I just wouldn't be surprised if this was the case. It sounds to me like they were saying in verbally, yeah, we support you. Like you ever see these companies? How many of y'all noticed how companies have these like diversity statements, like we promote diversity and blah 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 blah. And then when you become more economically conscious, you realize that that's a bunch of BS. That they just say it because they were for a long time legally required to say it, but they really didn't mean it. Because then you still go into a certain department and you see that 99% of the employees are white and or they have one black person out of 300 people, but yet they claim to be committed to diversity and racial equality, which they're not, right? So I think that what probably happened is they said, okay, we don't want any smoke from rejecting Snoop and Master P. So instead of dealing with all of the chaos that might come from us openly rejecting them, we're going to accept them, but we're really not going to accept them. We're going to say one thing and then do another. Politicians do it all the time. Politicians will say, yeah, I'll do it. But then when they do it half-hearted. Movie studios have done this. They'll say, yeah, we'll put your movie out, but they really don't put your movie out. They really don't promote your movie. They know in their head, because they control the distribution and the marketing, they get to decide which products, which projects are going to get the biggest spotlight. It's just like promoting a hip hop artist. If I've got 5 artists, but one of them is my girlfriend and the other 5 are just 4 random people, then I can say, look, I got 5 artists out, but it just so happens that I'm putting the spotlight on this artist because this is the artist that I really want to see benefit the most from the distribution system. So I think that that's what happened. I think that they just told them one thing, did something different, which again could be a legal issue, right? I'm sure Ben Crump and his great attorneys that work with him, Demario Solomon Simmons out of Oklahoma, by the way, I think is every bit as good as Ben Crump. He's just not famous, right? But I think Demario's great too. Lawyers like that, they know how to carve out the case, and I think that they're going to have a case. I think Walmart is paying close attention. But what I really also see is a couple things. Number one, I hope they win the suit. But remember, Snoop Dogg and Master P winning a lawsuit against Walmart and getting distribution from Walmart doesn't, at least not directly, impact the masses of the black community, the thousands of black owned businesses that are not going to get access to Walmart distribution systems. It just doesn't. Most of us haven't sold 10 million records. Most of us are not as internationally famous as Snoop Dogg and Master P. Most of us aren't rappers or basketball players. So Snoop Dogg and Master P winning the lawsuit, the most that it does for black folks is really kind of the symbolic achievement of getting to see these two guys go out and become successful. It is also the fact that we get to go to Walmart and we get to find Snoop cereal without having to work too hard to find it, if that's what you want to eat. What I think is the right thing to do, though, beyond the lawsuit, and I think Master P and Snoop Dogg will be open to this argument, and that's why I'm making it, because I know that I don't know them directly, but I know they know people that I know, and I'm sure somebody will pass this video on or whatever. Is I would say to them, why not sort of come up with some sort of a plan to begin that long process of carving out distribution systems for Black-owned products? See, the problem is not just that Walmart is controlling and keeping their distribution system to themselves. It is the fact that we don't always have the patience or the vision to do the long work required to build out distribution networks, right? To build those Black-owned grocery stores, or even if it's a website that distributes products, right? That's where maybe you start. But remember, if you look at the history of Walmart, if you go back to when Sam Walton was first getting started. Walmart was a tiny business. Walmart at that time did not have as much clout, influence, and power as a lot of our celebrities today. But Sam Walton was committed to a broader vision of saying, every time a Walmart store succeeds, I'm going to go buy another one. He was able to partner with banks. This is where banks can come in to the conversation, right? If they can find ways to secure the capital, maybe putting the pressure on the banks to help you get the capital required to build out the distribution systems. But then you also need the expertise, right? You need, instead of having everybody learning how to become rappers and basketball players, you need people that know how to run grocery stores and build out distribution systems and things like that. And there are intelligent people in our community that can do that, but that is really the long play. That's the long-term win, because as long as Snoop and Master P are dependent upon Walmart to distribute their product to the masses, they're always going to be vulnerable. You can always get hit by the squeeze. This happened with a lot of content creators about a decade ago. I've been doing a lot of content creation for a long time, and I was doing it way back before a lot of people even started. I actually started my first YouTube channel in 2007, but I didn't really get into YouTube until 2013. But even 2013 was pretty early. And one thing I remember was I had a meeting with Jamarlin Martin, who created this platform called Bossip. And Jamarlin he's a great guy, super smart. And he was telling me all about how Bossip became the behemoth that it became. And he mentioned the days when Kim Kardashian would call them every day to try to get them to cover stories about her. And she was really into marketing. She really was she didn't care what people said about her as long as they were talking about her. That was it. She said, well, this person called me a name. Can you put that in you should probably cover this one. This would be really good for your viewers, right? That kind of thing. So one thing Jamarlin talked about is that in the beginning, you had content creators, again, the people that produced things, right, who were making a lot of money. Because they would have these blogs and they would put this content on these blogs and they would just make insane amounts of money. I think he said they were clearing 20 million a year at one point. But here's the thing. They didn't just they weren't able to go straight to the consumer. They had to go through the middleman. The middleman would be these ad networks. These ad networks would go and get the ad money from the corporations, and then they would put the ads onto these blogs, and then the blogs would make a cut of the ad revenue. So what happened was that the people that were in control of the distribution of the ads started to squeeze the producers, the content creators. So he said that their revenue went from 20 million a year down to 15, then it went down to 10, then it went down to 5, and next thing you know, he's having to lay all these people off because the people that they needed to distribute the revenue to them and to take these ads coming from the companies, the middleman basically said, I really don't have to pay you because there's 1,000 blogs out here. Why do I have to give you any money? I can give you all a penny a piece. So what happened was that the amount of money they were making was literally like if they were getting, I don't know, $20 per 1,000 reads, it dropped down to like 25 cents or $1 or just these ridiculously low numbers. And I remember being a part of that process because at that time, even my little company was making a few $100,000 a year just blogging, right? And then we saw the numbers drop. And so here's the deal. And Master P gets this because I think Master P talks about being in the dope game. The power is always in the person who has the connect. The power is in the person who has the connect. So Master P and Snoop Dogg are producing this cereal. The only way they make money from that cereal is if consumers buy it. Walmart is the connect. Walmart has the distribution channel. So Walmart is strong-arming Snoop and Master P. And what they're really saying in their behavior toward them is, you should have gave us a better deal. You should have let us own the product. But of course, that's an impossible deal because Master P and Snoop Dogg have made the valid point that they believe in Black ownership and they want to maintain ownership of their brand. And I completely respect that. But the thing about it too, though, is that this is a type of power ownership. Pay attention now. I need y'all to let me know you're getting this. Consciousness exercise. This is what that is. Every time I say consciousness exercise, y'all know what that means. That means I want you to really meditate on this a little bit. Ownership is a kind of power that people don't usually give you. Ownership is the kind of power that you really have to fight for. Ownership is the kind of power that you have to take. Ownership is the type of power that you have to be willing to defend. Ownership is the type of power that you have to invest in. Snoop Dogg used to have a great saying where he would say something like paying the cost to be the boss, right? So if you want to really be the boss, nobody's going to let you be the boss if you don't pay the cost. Nobody's going to let you be the boss because they just want to be nice to you. Nobody is going to automatically transfer to you more power in the relationship than they have unless you show that somehow they have to give you that power. Like I would never, there's not a single, I love my neighbor, but my neighbor could not come to my house and say, I'd like to own 80% of your house. I would say, what the hell's wrong with you? Get off my porch. Do you understand? So effectively, the question becomes this: when you're talking about the building of Black businesses, and we're going to jump into the cost model of cooperative economics today. This is a model specific. You'll only see this in the Black Business School. This was specifically created to deal with Black wealth challenges. This is not in any textbook anywhere. But I have a PhD in this stuff, so I'm qualified to develop models. I developed this specifically for the Black community. But the point of the matter is that if you don't have people that are willing to do the 10, 20, 30-year work necessary to build out economic ecosystems in an appropriate way, you are always going to get squeezed by those who possess the power that you do not have. You're always going to get squeezed. If you look, let me just hold on. Let's sort of think about this, okay? Let's say we were to look at the bullet point history of Walmart and revenue gains and their struggles through the years. Okay, so if we were to look at the bullet point history of Walmart, here's what you would see. You don't see Walmart did not wake up one day as a company that's worth $500 billion or whatever they're worth right now. Let me see Walmart's market cap. What's Walmart's market cap? Walmart market cap. Walmart's market cap is 456 billion. Okay, so I said $500 billion. That's pretty close. All right. So Walmart didn't wake up like that. They didn't sort of, and remember, when you have a market cap of $456 billion, you have an amount of power that no rapper has ever had. There's no rapper, we look up to the rappers or whatever on the cover of Forbes. There's no rapper that has even 1/1000th of the power of a Walmart. Walmart is a massive economic Death Star that wasn't built by somebody selling a few records or having a big internet following. Walmart was built through a tremendous amounts of capital, years and years of work, and also a lot of technical training and expertise required to distribute products throughout the world. And so let me just kind of give you a quick summary of Walmart that I found here. Walmart's history is marked by rapid growth and expansion, both domestically and internationally. It was founded by Sam Walton in 1962 in Rogers, Arkansas. It started with a single store focused on offering products at low prices to achieve higher volume sales. So they started with a single store. There are millions of Black people that have a single store. Are you trying to build a Walmart, or do you think it's going to happen overnight? The Walton family owned 24 stores by 1967. So within 5 years, they scaled up to 24 stores. That comes from significant amounts of what they call the plowback rate. The plowback ratio is the percentage of the money you make relative to the amount of money that you reinvest into the company. They will make money, they pour back in. They make money, they pour back in. And they had a lot of capital problems during that time. There was a time where Sam Walton needed to borrow $1.5 million within 24 hours, or the company was going to die. So when you look at what our vision is in terms of business, what it takes to really build an economic empire, it's going to require significant amounts of investment. That's one of the reasons why, if you've ever seen me get frustrated by the flashiness or the flashy culture, like, look at me, I made $2 million last year. Now I've got a Bugatti and a mansion and everything else. That flashy culture bothers me a little bit because there's got to be more to it than that. I don't really want to hear how flashy you are. I want you to show me the broke billionaire in the Black community. I want to see the multimillionaire who looks like they make 50,000 a year because they're plowing back so much of their money into developing the infrastructure to create a larger organization. So basically throughout the 70s and 80s, Walmart expanded nationally, introducing new store formats like Sam's Club and the first Walmart Supercenter, and achieved remarkable milestones such as reaching $1 billion in sales faster than any other company at the time. In the 1990s, they saw Walmart become the nation's #1 retailer. Financially, Walmart has seen considerable revenue gains over the years, becoming the world's largest company by revenues as listed in the Forbes Global 500 list. Walmart reported a total revenue of $611.3 billion. $611.3 billion. This is what Snoop Dogg and Master P are dealing with. They're dealing with a company that can spend $10 billion and not even think twice about it. This is the type of economic power that they're dealing with, that they're up against. And so I'm curious to see how this lawsuit ends. I think that Walmart is paying attention, of course, but I think at the same time, I want us to really sort of consciously understand that there's different levels to this economic thing. And Walmart is not a person. They're not some big brand. They're not a guy. Walmart is not some dude who made 10 #1 albums and got 5 Grammys. Walmart is an idea. Walmart is an economic god to some extent. They are ubiquitous. They are this massive entity that exists based on an idea. There's not one, pay attention now. I want you to just try to understand this with me. If Master P dies tomorrow, then a lot of his brand, the company's brand value just ceases to exist. It's gone. It ends with his life, some of it, not all of it, but a lot of it does. There's not one single person who could die tomorrow and kill the economic value of Walmart. That's the difference between individual power and institutional power. And if you have your children go through our Black Business School for Children, which I hope you'll consider, I hope you'll take a look. We're really good at educating kids at a college level, but it's like baby food. It's so much fun for them. You'll know that one of the things we teach children is what it means to be sturdy. Sturdy stands for systems, technology, entrepreneurship, relationships, and delegation for the youth. The reason that we have them learn the sturdy model is because I want your kids to learn how to make money as a system and not as an individual. That's a deprogramming from the slave culture. The slave culture says, I'm going to go out here, I'm going to work my butt off, and if I want to make more money, I'm going to work harder, I'm going to get the best job in the world, I'm going to save and invest, and I'm going to become this massive thing. I'm going to sell a bunch of records and win some NBA championships, whatever it is that I'm trying to do that makes me into the man, that makes me into some sort of iconic figure. So maybe perhaps even I become a Black leader. I become King Kong consciousness, or I become the leader of the Black community, the next Malcolm X, the next Martin Luther King. That means very little compared to institutional power. Because when one individual becomes powerful, then it's easy. You're an easy target. All they got to do is kill that one person, and then everything disappears. Everything goes away. You see, what you really want is you want institutions. Institutions don't die the way people die. Ideas don't die the way people die. Walmart is an institution. Walmart is an idea. And because they have this institution and this idea that people have spent literally 50 years carving out massive distribution channels, somebody had a 50-year vision for this company. Well, they've got money to burn. Every single one of Sam Walton's kids, he has a bunch of them. Every single one of them is on the Forbes list, and every single one of them has about 10 times more wealth than Oprah, right? Or 5 times more or something. I think every single one of his kids is richer than Oprah Winfrey, right? So I'm not saying, and you probably can't name any of them. I bet you, give me a yes or no if you can agree on this statement. How many of you would agree with me that the majority of us in this room cannot name one single child of Sam Walton? Give me a yes or no. How many of you would agree with that statement? Yes, not one of us. But every single one of them has more money than Oprah. Now, and again, this does not put white folks on a pedestal. Does not mean they're better than us. They're certainly not. We know this is not the case. But what happens, what I need us to really understand is what institutional power looks like, and understanding the business model full circle, not just production. See, the reason we lost hip hop is because we focused solely on the production of hip hop, but we didn't think about the distribution and the monetization of hip hop. We didn't think about getting those records around the world. We didn't think about having record stores all throughout the country. We didn't think about what it takes to sell a consumer product. All we thought about was having a party and making a dope album. When I interviewed some of the guys who were the founding fathers of hip hop back in the 1970s, and I said, "Did you know how much money was going to be made from this art form that you created in the South Bronx?" And they said, "You know what, Doc? We were just looking for the party. We wasn't even thinking about that." And so I said, "Okay, I get it now." Unfortunately, in many cases, and you look again, this is why economic culture is so important. This is why I talk about it extensively in my book, The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. Culture matters because it seems to me that in many cases we spend so much time looking for the party that we forget to go look for the power. We're not looking for the power, we're not looking for the profits, we're not looking for any of the stuff that comes with with our creativity. So what happens is that somebody comes along, some nerdy white guy who went to Harvard Law School, who understands supply chains and distribution systems and corporate management and all these other things and how, raising capital and customer conversion. They come along and they say, "Man, if I can get this thing packaged and distributed, we can make a killing." So what do? They go to the rappers. Actually, with the Sugar Hill Gang, let's talk about that. The Sugar Hill Gang, from what I understand, basically was just three guys that the lady just scooped up and said, "Okay, there's this thing called rap that we think we can sell. I need somebody who knows how to rap." And these guys, she's in a barbershop or something. One guy's like, "Yeah, I can rap." And so she just grabs these guys and says, "Okay, let's get you in the studio. Let's develop a product that we can then distribute around the world and monetize." And the next thing you know, hip hop is global. Right. And of course, all the rappers who were legitimately connected to the genre were pissed. They were upset. They were like, "We don't even know who these guys are. These guys, this is not Grandmaster Flash. This isn't DJ Cool Herc. This isn't Africa Bambaataa. These are just some guys that you just scooped up off the street." Well, that's kind of because, in my opinion, that whenever you're trying to really develop economic power in an ecosystem, you have to have the people that are the producers and the creatives, but you also have the people that are going to just sit around and think about the money, who are going to just think about the distribution, who are just going to think about negotiating the deals. So effectively, and I'm going to wrap it up with this. I think that the challenge that Snoop and Master P are having is that Walmart isn't really thinking a whole lot about Snoop cereal. They're really not. They're not. They're so strong. They don't have to think about one product. They've got thousands of products. Um, and also there's a longer game here, right? The short game is that Master P and Snoop Dogg win this lawsuit. They get a big fat check. Maybe Walmart pushes Snoop cereal all throughout the world because they don't want to get sued again or they don't want the bad publicity. I'm all for that. I think that's perfectly fine. Ben Crump walks away with a $20 million payday or something. Good for him. But what I'm also thinking about is, are we going to take this full circle? Do you go full circle? Because full circle doesn't mean that a black celebrity gets the hookup from a big corporation. That's happened thousands of times before. There are thousands of black people who've gotten the hookup from corporations, right? Like, okay, we select you. You're our favorite Negro, so we're gonna make sure that we treat you well and blah blah. That becomes, if you watch the movie The Hunger Games, that's pretty much what it is. The Hunger Games is where you have the masses of people who are suffering, but they grab one person out of that group and they treat them better than anybody, and they become a source of inspiration to keep the masses under control, to keep them in their place, keep you getting up, going to work every day, keep you not thinking about ownership, to keep you thinking about buying consumer products, because now you're buying Snoop cereal, but really a big chunk of that money is going to Walmart. That's kind of, or you go see the Black Panther, but a big chunk of that money is going to Disney, right? And again, nothing against Disney, nothing against Walmart, nothing against Black Panther, nothing against Snoop cereal, but there's a bigger play here. But the thing is about the bigger play is that the bigger play requires a level of economic consciousness where you can see what it is required to build the big picture. The big picture is not Snoop and Master P winning this lawsuit. The big picture is by the year 2060, there is some massive global $100 billion ecosystem of product distribution where thousands of black entrepreneurs who have great ideas and great products they've developed can distribute their products and get them in the hands of the consumer. That's the Sam Walton vision is the big play here. The Snoop Dogg Master P lawsuit, that's just a blip in time. That's tiny. Okay, so remember, building real economic power in America typically takes decades, it takes generations. An NFL player getting a great contract with Jerry Jones to play for the Dallas Cowboys means very little compared to the 50-year process of building the NFL from a crappy little league where all the teams were being sold for $100 a piece to becoming something where every team's worth $5 to $10 billion each, right? That's the long play. That's the intergenerational play. So the question becomes, in what spaces are we collectively making those intergenerational plays? I don't see that as much, right? Because sometimes the flashy stuff it accelerates a commitment to instant gratification. There's a lot of instant gratification that comes with this idea that one day I can be poor, the next day I get a record deal, and then I'm eating lobster and shrimp and I'm staying in five-star hotels. That's the story that we love. That's what we love to hear, and that's the one that keeps us all inspired. But really, the stories that should inspire us as well are the stories where we talk about how UPS was started 80, 90 years ago by two teenagers riding or delivering packages on their bicycles. And over multiple generations, it became this massive, $250 billion entity. Right. That's what you want to build. So this is the conversation that needs to be had that goes beyond just, how do we make sure everybody can go buy Snoop cereal, which a lot of these breakfast cereals, let's just be honest. I don't know about y'all, but I even say the word breakfast cereal and I get fat. I gain weight just even talking about some of these, Fruit Loops and all that. No, again, I'm happy. I hope they sell lots of Snoop Loops and all that, but I ain't eating, I can't eat that stuff. I mean, I don't, and we ain't feeding it to the kids. No disrespect, no hating Snoop, but no, this is not what you eat if you want to live long. So anyway, though, let me stop talking and let me stop talking. In fact, the origins of breakfast cereal is really interesting. Actually, the first breakfast cereal I think was shredded wheat back in the 19th century, and they used to sell the shredded wheat, and it wasn't like it is now. It was all crunchy and hard and nasty, but they used to feed it to people because their diets would make their bowels get stopped up, so they couldn't go to the bathroom. So people would come from far and wide to eat this shredded wheat that was being served. I think it was being served like by I don't not Mormons, but maybe Amish or something. Yeah, it was like something like that. Like they started, so then like Post, a guy named Post, I think his name was like William Post or something. I think that he was sick and he had these bowel issues and he ate the shredded wheat and he said, "Man, this is really good." So Post, businessman, right? He starts saying, "Okay, we can just package this differently and start selling it everywhere." And that became the first breakfast cereal. So then you started having other breakfast cereals get developed. So that's sort of how these things begin. So I think it's very important to understand these things so that we can sort of say, what is our origin story? What is it that we're starting now, that we're creating now, that isn't common now, that's going to be everywhere 50 years from now? That's going to be everywhere 100 years from now. That requires a certain amount of vision. It requires a certain amount of imagination. It requires a certain amount of just commitment to something that is unseen, that's bigger than yourself. It requires almost like a type of faith to the point of almost lunacy, because you're in your mind, you're visualizing a world that doesn't exist anymore. And a lot of times people will tell you that you shouldn't focus too much on your visions or on your dreams because they want to keep you grounded in reality. Well, sometimes I ain't gonna lie. Sometimes I don't like reality. Sometimes I look at reality and I say, "Oh God, reality is gross. I don't want to be a part of this. Is this all that there is? No, take me to the metaverse. Take me somewhere else. Take me to a place where I can imagine a world that's different from the one that's around me." So I think it's okay, actually, and this is controversial, I know, but I am definitely a dreamer, and I'm definitely a guy who believes that you have the right to decide which type of reality you're going to focus on the most. You could focus on what's around you and what exists, or you could say, I'm going to live, I'm going to move, I'm relocating to the year 2060, because in the year 2060, there's a better reality there. I can visualize a reality where our kids are not last in everything. I can visualize a reality where there's a lot more Black ownership. I can visualize a reality where a lot of these ideas that we talk about on a daily basis have become more mature, and your grandkids have implemented these ideas and they've turned into these billion-dollar, trillion-dollar companies. That's where I live. That's my vision, right? And my wife, I'm gonna tell you, I'll be honest with you, just honest reflection on my marriage. My wife is a therapist, right? And she can identify crazy people, and she identified me as a crazy man a long time ago. And I acknowledge that. And part of my crazy is that is that I embrace the crazy. I believe in the crazy. I think the crazy is really what allows you to take what's in front of you and expand it into the things that seem to be impossible. Only crazy people will try to do something that is defined to be impossible. But I also believe that in the midst of that crazy, we don't really know what's really possible. So maybe I'm not crazy for trying to expand on what others believe is possible. Maybe the crazy is that we actually have the audacity to believe that we know what's possible and what's not. Do you understand how many inventions were created after people really swore that everything that ever could be invented has already been invented? Do you know that 100 years ago, they were thinking about closing down the patent office? Literally, look it up. They were thinking about closing down the patent office because they said everything that could be invented has already been invented. How much more technology can you have than what you have here in 1901? That's how they thought. That's how they thought. Incredibly limited vision. So what I want you to do is I want you to be smart, but I never want you to be so smart that you outsmart yourself or that you make yourself unintelligent by overestimating how much you actually know. You see, the biggest thing I learned, and I have a lot of education. I mean, you talk about formal education. I rarely meet anybody who's taken more classes than I have on different topics. I was in school from age 18 to age 31. And even after that, I was still studying every day for 20 something years after that, after I finished my PhD. So I have a lot of education. And one of the biggest things I learned from all this education is how little I actually know. No matter how much I've shoved into my brain, I know that the amount I know is like this, and the amount I don't know is the size of the freaking universe. So don't ever fool yourself into thinking that you know more than you know, because then you're gonna make a fool out of yourself and you're gonna limit yourself. Do you understand? Okay. All right. So by the way, guys, if you go to drboycedaily.com, that's where you can get the recordings and everything. I know yesterday we couldn't make it for our financial consciousness training, but every single thing that we do in this class is recorded. So you can go to drboycedaily.com and log in and get access to that. Also, you can get access to the slides that we're going to do. I'm going to actually lay out the slides in a second. I know we spent a lot of time talking about other stuff, but I really wanted to flesh out that one Snoop Dogg conversation because I think it's important. And also the community. If you log in at drboycedaily.com, you can get access to the community, which is on B1 Nation, and that's where you can network with each other, talk to each other. We have further conversations about economic ideas. I'm going to post in the community later on this afternoon. So just go to drboycedaily.com and log in, and you can get access to all that stuff. And if you haven't gotten the study guide or the book, the book, The 10 Commandments, let's see, does our membership allow us access to slides in the community? Yeah, it does, LaShonda. But you have to be signed up at drboycedaily.com, right? So if you did the 30 days of consciousness training last month, that's a separate thing. This is the 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power. This is something that last month was an experiment, and we did that, and that's yours. If you signed up for what we did last month at Dr. Boyce Elevate, that's yours for life. You can send your kids through it, which I think that you should, because there's literally 30 straight days of economic consciousness. You can take a look at that. Dr. Boyce Daily is basically where I said, okay, let me commit to doing this every single morning at 10 a.m. Single thing is recorded. So what's going to happen is that eventually we're going to have hundreds and hundreds of lectures in there. 3-4 years from now, everything will still be in there. So there's just going to be tons of stuff in there. So feel free to go to drboycedaily.com and you can hit the link to join the community, and you can come in there and you can talk to each other. There's actually a little button you can hit where you can find other community members that live close to you. So maybe if you want to form a study group, I know that some of you in Prime have been doing that. You've been actually getting together and helping each other make money through stock options. And I'm telling you, if you look this week has been unbelievable for those of you that are selling stock options. With the money makers, we have this thing called Dr. Boyce Money Makers, where I literally show you what I'm buying and how I'm making the money for my family. And this week has been a really good week. So I would say take a look, give it a try, because I think you'll like what you see. And so anyway, let me hop back in and share the slides for today so we can kind of look at a formal economic lesson that will help us ideas a little bit better. Okay, so today I want to talk to you guys quickly about something called the cost model of cooperative economics. Cooperative economics is basically an understanding that similar to this. I'm in Vegas right now, and the Super Bowl is going to happen here. I'm not going to the game, but I am in the city. And one thing that football players understand is that in order to win this game, you need a team. And in order to have a good team, everybody has to be on the same page. Everybody plays by the same rules. Your teammates wear the same uniform. Everybody knows their position. The team has a strategy. There is no one football player who could ever defeat a football team. Patrick Mahomes is one of the best players on the planet. Lamar Jackson just won the NFL MVP deservedly because he's a great player. He needs to win a championship, though, but he's still a great player, and I love him. But Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes, no matter how good they become, they will never, ever be so good that they could single-handedly defeat an entire football team, right? Because you need other team players. Well, the cost model is built around cooperative economics, which is the basic understanding that economics is a team sport and it's a relay race. Please give me a yes so we can do a consciousness exercise. Give me a yes that you have internalized this idea that economics is a team sport and that it's a relay race that must occur across generations. Give me a yes if we can understand this and just internalize this idea that in order for you to succeed economically at the highest levels, you have to work together. We talked about Walmart. Walmart is not a person. Walmart is not one dude or one woman or one superhero. Walmart is about probably 100,000 or two or three. I don't know. I bet you it's probably far more than that. I bet you there are more than 500,000 people that come together and make the Walmart idea work. Right. So economics is a team sport, but not only do you have the width of a team fighting and playing together, you also have the length, which is across time. And that's why I call wealth a relay race. It's something that occurs across generations. If you understand that basic idea that economics are better achieved when I'm working as a team and that they're better achieved when I'm working across time, then you will have a much easier time accumulating generational wealth than somebody who thinks the opposite, which is that wealth is all about me and mine and what I'm going to get. And it's all about the here and now, because what you've done is you have crippled yourself. You cripple yourself when you take away the benefit of time. You cripple yourself when you take away the benefit of teamwork. Do you understand? Okay. So because a person who thinks they can build wealth by themselves in a short amount of time is like a football player who says, I can win a Super Bowl by myself after practicing for one day. You cannot win a Super Bowl by yourself, and you will never win a Super Bowl by practicing for one day. It requires a whole team, and you got to practice for a very long time in order for you to win the Super Bowl, sometimes across many, many different years to build up an organization that can win a Super Bowl. The same thing is true when you talk about building an economically stable family. All right, so the cost model of cooperative economics is something that I put together specifically as a simple framework to help you understand what cooperative economics looks like, what it means to have teams that win Super Bowls. This is something that can be applied to your family or your investment group, etc. It's also built in the word cost, that in order to be free, you have to pay a cost. And freedom is not free. In order for you to be the boss, there is a cost that comes with being the boss. No one will ever make you the boss voluntarily. So if you are not willing to pay the cost, then you will not have economic power in the United States or anywhere else in the world. So what does the C stand for in the cost model? Well, the C stands for contribute. Contribute means that everybody contributes. If you remember, one of the first commandments in the book, The 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power, is that everyone must be an asset to their family. So everyone must contribute. So you contribute to the things you care about. Just like being a good teammate, if your teammate is trying to make a tackle, you run over and you help your teammate make the tackle. If your teammate in the Super Bowl, if your teammate is running to the end zone, then you run over and you block so your teammate can get into the end zone. Well, the same thing is true in your life when it comes to economics. When you see a teammate that is trying to accomplish something, you go and you contribute to the thing you care about. You say, look, you are out here trying to start this business. Well, I'm going to block for you by buying a product from you, by marketing for you. I'm going to hit a like on every Facebook post that I see. I'm going to do everything I can to contribute to your success. So that's the first part of being a good teammate. The second thing is own. The O stands for own. Ownership. Ownership is the new measure of wealth. Ownership is more important than income. Ownership is more important than what kind of car you drive. Ownership is more important than what kind of job you have. Ownership is more important than almost any other false indicator of economic success that exists. Master P and Snoop Dogg, we talked about them a minute ago. They are winning in the cost model because they use that word ownership a lot. I saw Master P last week and he talked about Black ownership a lot. And I was very proud of him because he used the word black and he used the word owned. And he understands that it's ownership that defines power, not just what kind of job you get or how much money you make or what kind of car you drive. These are all false symbols of economic success. These false symbols are distractions. If your daughter wants to marry a rich man or your son wants to marry a financially stable woman, tell them to not look at how much money somebody makes, how nice their apartment is, what kind of car they drive, how fancy the restaurant was, how expensive their suit was. All those things are symbolic, they are materialistic, they are shallow, they are false representations of economic security. The bigger question to ask is, what do you own? What do you own? What do you own? How much stock do you own? How much real estate do you own? Do you own a business? Like, what do you even own your life? Because most Black people in America do not even own their own existence. They don't even own their own existence. They don't even own their own life. How do I know that? Well, because if you ask most people, you say, hey, it's a Tuesday morning at 10 o'clock. Let's go to the movies today. Let's take a little break and go to the movies. What are most people going to say? Answer me in the chat. What are most people going to tell you if you call them up and say, let's go to the movies today? Well, let's go spend time, let's take our kids to the park. Or we're both stressed out from all the microaggressions on the job. Let's go to the spa. Let's meditate together so we can heal. We can heal ourselves. What are they gonna say? Nope, I can't because I got to go to work. And that's the way it's supposed to be. That's how the world is designed. Rich people can do that though. Powerful, wealthy people, wealthy families, they can. It's people say money can't buy happiness. I don't know. I have to disagree. I think that if you're a well-balanced person, money can at least give you the day off work so you can go figure out what's going to make you happy. Money, I'm not a broke person, and let me just tell y'all, let me show you something. I don't brag or stunt or floss or flex or anything like that. I'm not here to do that at all. But let me get rid of my Zoom background here and let me just lift this up. Do you see this? This is this massive like hotel room. My wife, there's the bedroom. She's in there asleep. And this is the really nice, luxurious penthouse suite that me and my wife rented to come up to Vegas for Super Bowl weekend. And so we were able to do that because, we're not poor. My wife makes money. I left my wallet at home. I didn't have my wallet. But we went to dinner last night and it cost $271.86. And my wife pulled out her credit card. And don't let anybody make you think that women should not or cannot contribute financially. My wife has my financial back all the time. Marriage is teamwork. There's nothing wrong with that. And we were like, "Ooh, that's a big bill." And then we laughed about it and we ate our food and it was really good. And we were just happy that we had a nice time together. Do you understand? So having a little bit of money is cool. And so as a 52-year-old man, I look at my life and I think about the sacrifices. I think about the times where things were really difficult. I think about when I had to move out of my apartment in the middle of the night because I didn't have any money to pay the rent. And I'd say and I think about how I stuck to my guns and kept focused on my goals. And now, things are pretty nice. And I'm gonna tell you, rich people do have it better. I'm not gonna, I'm not here to lie about that to you. Right. And that's one of the reasons why I want you to be rich. I want you to make money. I want you to succeed financially. Right. And so the reality is that America is a society that is designed in such a way that they don't really want working class people to have the same access to comfort, healing, and luxury as wealthy people do. Wealthy people can take the day off and relax and meditate and go to the spa, right? And so, but the thing is, though, that if you are raised in the rat trap that many of us are raised in, if you are trained to love the rat trap and the rat race and the rut, then your life is completely different. And I don't want that for you. I definitely don't want that for your kids. I don't want that for your grandkids. So when you talk about the power of ownership and you talk about how ownership can give you access to freedom and what it means to be financially secure and how you even measure that for yourself or measure that for others, there must be greater discussions about ownership. Because what that's going to do is it's going to lead us into the very uncomfortable exercise of looking in the mirror and saying, okay, wait a minute. I think I'm financially successful because I went to college and I got a bachelor's degree in something that pays me a lot of money, but I'm working for other people and I have nothing, no businesses I own. I'm renting from my landlord and he's getting all that money and I don't own any stock. I don't even own a percentage of all these companies that are making money all around me. Maybe I need to adjust that. You understand? Maybe I need to graduate. Like I really think that graduation shouldn't just be about getting a bachelor's degree and getting this piece of paper that allows you to go get a job. Graduating to me means you go from being a renter to being an owner. It means you go from being a consumer to being a producer. It means you go from being a borrower to being an investor. It means you go from being the employee to actually being the boss of the company. That's what graduating is, or that's what growing up, in my opinion. Not to say that you're not a grown up if you're not in that category, but there's another level to this, and I need you to get to that level. Do you understand? And I need you to not stop until you get there. And I need you to tell your kids, like, look, all this needs to be temporary. This whole working for other people thing, we'll do that if we have to. And maybe we'll even do that forever on some level, but that's never going to dominate our economic existence. But I'm not going to tell you to feel bad for working for other people. I work for other people. I went and gave a speech for Lamar Tyler last week. And during that day, I said, I work for you. What do you need me to do? But there's a big difference between me working for him because I want to versus me working for him because I have to. Master P was working for him because Lamar paid Master P to come to his conference, right? So it's okay to work for other people, but that can't be the entirety of your existence. Just like being a consumer is always going to be a part of your life. You're always going to consume. I have a bag of Doritos here. I have a cup of coffee. I bought that from Starbucks. I have a bottle of water. I'm consuming this, right? Whenever you buy a product, you are a consumer. There's nothing wrong with that. But you also have to put yourself on the other side of that economy so that you're not always being drained. You're able to actually benefit from the economy the same way a producer will. Things that we teach the kids in the program for children is what we call the POISE model. POISE. POISE stands for producer, owner, investor, saver, entrepreneur. We want our kids to be producers, owners, investors, savers, entrepreneurs. If you want to do a consciousness exercise with your kid, grandkid, niece, nephew, do this for me. If you have it on you, just go to them and say, I'll give you $5. $5. For $5, you can change their life. This is for $5, you can give them more economic game, so to speak, than they'll get through 4 years, through $100,000 of college. For $5, I promise you this. Have them memorize the POISE acronym. Producer, owner, investor, saver, entrepreneur. And then what you do is talk to them about each one of these things because you're qualified to teach. I'm deputizing you. I'm granting your whatever award certificate you need to know that you're qualified to teach this. I'm giving it to you right now. And I want you to go and I want you to give them maybe $10. Some kids don't come cheap. Some kids are going to price you out. They're going to mention inflation or something, right? So maybe it's going to cost you 10, maybe cost you 15 or even 20, but for 15, 20, $10, you can change their life. Have them memorize POISE, POISE. This is what you're supposed to be when you grow up. You're going to be a producer, owner, investor, saver, entrepreneur. These are the things that will make you economically powerful. And then maybe explain what each thing is. And then also tell them what the opposite of that is. The opposite of a producer is a consumer. If all you do is consume, then you're going to run out of money. The opposite of the owner is the renter. The renter pays the rent to the landlord, and the landlord gets to build generational wealth, while the renter is feeding the landlord's economic destiny, right? The renter is putting the landlord's kids through school. The renter is buying property for the landlord. The renter is putting the landlord's outcomes ahead of his own. And this goes back hundreds of years. You go back and look at the feudal systems in Europe and all that. They've always been doing that. Capitalism has been doing this since the beginning. There was a cab driver named Claude that gave me a ride to back from the Verizon store when I lost my phone yesterday, and I was telling you all about that, and I had to go to Verizon. And Claude, he seemed to know all the answers. Claude said he spent 10 years in China studying. And I said, what did you study? He said, everything. And so Claude was telling me, he said, ain't nothing new under the sun. Everything that you think is new, they've been doing it for hundreds of years. I said, really? He said, yeah, absolutely. So I was listening to Claude, and it was a great conversation. And I agree with Claude 100% that a lot of the stuff you think is new, a lot of the stuff you even think is racist, if you go back in history, it's always been there. I'm not saying racism doesn't exist. Yeah, race makes it easier for them to do it to you. Do you understand? Like, it's like if somebody is a criminal and they come and they rob your house because you live in a certain neighborhood where there are no police and your doors are unlocked. Uh, because the criminal robbed you, that doesn't mean that you're the only type of person they're going to rob. Maybe they robbed you because you have the neighborhood that doesn't have a police presence. You're also in the neighborhood where you also have been taught to leave your door unlocked. So locking your door would reduce the probability that they're going to rob you. So while you might think that you're unique, that he only robbed you, maybe because of some other variable, maybe he didn't like you too. Maybe he didn't like you, your door's unlocked, and you're in a neighborhood where there are no police. All those variables might have all played a part, but it's not just because he doesn't like you that he robbed you. He also robbed you because your door's unlocked and they don't put police in your neighborhood. Do you understand? So being black plays a big part in our economic outcomes for 100%. Racism is very, very real. But what happens is that blackness is also correlated with all these other variables that make it easier for the capitalist to rob you. Do you understand? So ultimately, it's very important to become conscious of these things so you know how to position yourself. Okay, so one thing I'm going to mention is one of you asked, what is the URL for the Prime program? The URL for the Prime program is drboyceprime.com. That's drboyceprime.com. And also, if you want to see what we do in the Prime program, let's say you're thinking about it, this is where we talk about selling stock options to generate income. This is how I make most of my money. This is how I'm paying my credit card Monday morning. From the expensive food or whatever, I am paying the credit card with money that I'm making by selling stock options. It works with certain stocks, and you have to be able to manage the risk a certain way. But if that's of interest to you, and you have a little bit of money to invest in stocks or whatever, or into options that you'd like to participate with, feel free to go to drboyceprime.com. You can sign up there, or you can just go to boycewatkins.com and take a look. There's a training called How to Make Money Without Working. So how to make money without working. You can also text the word stock to 87948. If you haven't done that yet, I'll send you a link to the training as well. Text stock to 87948. If you're interested in our programs for kids, you can text the word youth to 87948. So everything's 87948. And the key word is youth if you want to learn about our programs for kids. Now, I'm going to finish up the cost model, but I'm going to be real ghetto and ask you all if you can allow me like literally 60 seconds because I really got to go to the bathroom. I didn't plan on going for over an hour today, but whatever. We're going to keep on going, but I need y'all to just forgive me as I run to the bathroom real quick. So give me 1 second. In fact, while I do that, go ahead and text those words over if you want to. Text youth to 87948 if you'd like to learn about the programs, kids programs. I'll be right back, guys. Okay, I am back. I am back. All right. So let me share this slide so we can go ahead and finish up for today. We'll be back tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Eastern. So if you'd like to join us tomorrow, I hope you guys will come by tomorrow. All right. So the cost model, the C stands for contribute to the things you believe in. Ownership is the measure of economic success, not just income, not just how fancy your job is, things like that, not just the kind of clothes you wear. Next, save and invest. The S stands for save. So you save and invest your money. You save your money so your money can save you. Saving has to be the most important bill that you pay every month, not not your rent, not your cell phone, not your car note. Nothing's more important in your life than your financial future. So whatever you can save, you save, and saving is loading the gun, and investing is where you're actually squeezing the trigger. So you don't just save your money, you want to invest the money so that your money can grow. If your money does not grow, you're going to get eaten up by inflation because workers' wages remain very flat, whereas inflation is always going up. That's a very bad combination for the American consumer. This is one of the reasons why we have hit all-time highs in student loan debt. We have hit an all-time high in credit card debt. We have hit an all-time high in car loan debt. So debt has hit all-time highs. Well, why has it hit all-time highs? Well, because workers' wages are not going up, but because we have a country that has an addiction to spending, and they train you on this addiction. They give this to you like financial fentanyl from the time you're a baby. This financial fentanyl gets you and turns you into an economic zombie. If you study other countries around the world, and this is what I did, I went to I did some work with the Center for European Economic Research back in 2006, way back then. And when I was there, I started looking at data from other countries. Americans are financial crackheads. We have massive amounts of financial addiction that cause us to spend money even we don't have it. And a lot of that is also driven by flashy culture and seeing other people have things that we would like to have, keeping up with the Joneses and all these other stuff. You got to break out of that. Well, that will kick you in the butt. Or if you are a part of that, if you do like your nice stuff, like we have a middle child who likes the nice stuff, the Gucci and the Prada and all this other stuff. So I just basically told her, I said, if you're gonna live like that, you better learn how to invest. You better learn how to have your own money because you don't want to be one of these women out here that wants all the nice stuff but doesn't know how to get it with anything other than her body, right? Or her looks, right? That's not a healthy transaction in my opinion. All right, so the T stands for, let's go back to the T. Okay, the T stands for target. Your money is your weapon. Your money is your weapon, and basically, when one of the things that happens with our community that they've done to us is they've gotten you to undervalue the power of your economic weapon. That $1.6 trillion every year that Black people earn is an economic weapon of massive proportions. If I was to list the gross domestic product of all the countries around the world, you would find that over 95% of those countries do not have a gross domestic product. Gross domestic product is the value of all the goods and services produced by that economy. It's like a measure of income, basically, to some extent. None of those countries, most of those countries were not past the African American community. So if you were to list GDP of countries by country, and I'm going to try to do that. Let me see. I'm gonna see if this list will populate. If you were to list the gross domestic products of countries around the world, you would find that Black people have more income than massive countries like Russia and we're almost caught up with even countries like Canada, but then countries like Saudi Arabia, Colombia, Brazil, like we pretty much dwarf a lot of those countries. And so effectively, the U.S. by being the richest country in the world, it can trick us into believing that we're poor, right? It can trick us into believing that we don't have anything because we have less than white people do. But actually, that 1.6 trillion is a massive, massive target. So here's one thing that isn't discussed much when we talk about Black economic advancement is what I call the great redirect. If we were to simply redirect 10% of that 1.6 trillion to Black-owned businesses, that right there would increase Black wealth by several trillion dollars every generation. Just a 10% redirect of 1.6 trillion, well, that's $160 billion. A billionaire is 1,000 millionaires. So $160 billion is 160,000 new millionaires generated in the Black community every single year. So effectively, what it has to occur is that when you spend your money, understand your money is your power. Giving your power away makes you powerless. So when you're thinking about what to do with that power, I encourage you to realize that no one who does not support your beliefs or your agenda or your values should receive your economic power. Spending money with companies, there was a time where Black people, in fact, if you look at that, what was that video that was done called How to Sell to the Negro? One of the things that they said is that Black people will spend money just to show you that they can spend it. They do it because they don't want you to think they can't afford it. And I don't care if you don't think I can afford it. I want you to think I can't afford it because maybe I don't want to be able to afford it. Because I'm going to tell you what I can't afford. I cannot afford to go give all my money to people who hate my guts. I can't afford to do that. I cannot afford to give my money to people who don't care about my kids. I can't afford to give my money to people who are sabotaging my community. I can't afford to give my best to people who are giving me their worst. So this is similar to love and relationships. And I'm going to shut this down because some of y'all, someone mentioned that they like the class to be kept to 45 minutes, and I'm going to try to do it. And by the way, if you come in and we hit the 45-minute mark and you want to go, that's totally okay. Just know if you go to drboycedaily.com, all the trainings are going to be recorded and put there, so you can come back and finish it later on. So I know sometimes if there's more to say, I might go a little bit longer, but the stuff is there, so you can circle back when you have the time or the energy to do that. So don't think that I want to over deliver too much or overwhelm you. Okay. All right. So here's the thing: when you're talking about what you can afford and to do and afford not to do, I want you to really think about it like this. Here, has anybody ever noticed in relation? There's this book that this woman wrote called Men Love Bitches. And in this book, this lady made the basic argument that men don't appreciate a woman who is nicer to them. Men don't appreciate a woman who loves him, who has his back, who's there for him, because he thinks that woman doesn't have any value, right? Who does he want? He wants the woman that plays hard to get, right? And this is something that's always been true. And I think the same thing is true on the female side. A lot of you, give me a yes if you've seen that, where you've seen a woman who, because of her own relationship trauma, never loves the man that loves her back. She only loves the man who doesn't want her, who turns his back. She loves the man who wants to walk away. She doesn't want the man who's walking toward her. She wants to chase the man who's walking away. And again, just a side note, I think we got to deal with those daddy issues and mommy issues, and that's where therapists step into play. My wife is a great therapist. Feel free to go to her website. It's coachingwithdralicia.com. She might be able to help you with some of that. And my wife and I our marriage was not built that way. My wife was the woman of my dreams, and she knew that I admired her at that level. And one of the mature things that I appreciate is that because I was worried when I you could be friends with somebody for a long time, but you don't know what it's like to date them. So when I started dating my wife, I thought that my extensive admiration for her would be seen as some sort of liability, that she would think that I was some sort of little punk because I had kind of put her on a pedestal in my head. So I was kind of on high alert for that. And that wasn't the case. My wife is a grown woman, so she doesn't love a man more because he hates her. She loves a man more because he loves her. So the more I showed love to her, the more she showed love back. And I'm the same way, right? But you have to grow into this. You have to grow into this. Why? Well, because when you're younger, maybe you don't know who you are. Maybe you're still a little insecure, and maybe you see your own self-worth through your relationships, right? That if somebody loves me that much, if somebody wants me that much, that means that you must not have much going on if you got all this time to spend with me, to call me, and to be there with me. I want to work up to the person who I've actually got, who I actually see as the challenge. Right. And we do this even when we pick jobs. There are some people who will pick a job based on the prestige of the job. Right. They'll say, look, I want to go work for the White House. That's what I've always wanted to do. So the White House says, look, we're not going to pay you very much money. You're like, OK, no problem. And also, we're going to work you 80 hours a week. And you're like, OK, great. Right. And you're doing these things because you want the validation of working in the White House. But then there comes a point where you say, you know what? I have enough validation. I know who I am. I know I'm good at what I do. I don't want to work for a place that's going to underpay me and overwork me. I want to work for the place that's going to pay me well and that's going to appreciate me, right? So then you start the way you search for a job might shift because of that, right? So I think the same thing is true when it comes to economic love. I think that there is something about that validation from, and I'm just gonna say it, white folks. Every time I say white folks, people think it's all radical and stuff, but I just gotta, that validation from other people that we'll pay for that. You know, that's what college is about. It's like I need you to validate me. Maybe it'll help me make more money, but actually there are easier ways to make money than just going to college. But I'm gonna go to college and give you $200,000 so you can give me some sort of label that I can then carry through life and say that I'm actually a more accomplished person, or through various awards. We talked about Grammys and Oscars and all that, and how we get more validation by getting these awards. One of my friends, Killer Mike, just got 3 Grammy awards the other day, and I was happy for him. But at the same time, I don't see him any differently now as a 3-time Grammy winner than I saw him before he was a Grammy winner. I made an independent decision that my friend was a great artist. I didn't need them to give him an award for me to know that he's a great artist, right? But for some people, maybe that's what happens. So, long story short, what I would say to you is that when you are talking about your economic love, there's a type of economic maturity that has to occur. In the beginning, you're giving your money maybe to places and things that are going to make you feel more validated. Like, I'm going to get this car so that when I drive this car, people are going to think that I'm a better person, or more prestigious person than I was without the car. A wealthy person doesn't do that. A person who's wealthy, who knows that they're wealthy, doesn't really care about proving to you that they're wealthy, because they don't really want you to even know about the money in the first place. So they're gonna, or even when I go buy clothes, you know, it, when I went to Atlanta, we lost our luggage. They lost our. It made me mad, but I had to give a speech the next day. Me and my wife both went and got all of our clothes at Walmart. Like, that's full disclosure. Don't make fun of us. Don't judge us. But that's what we did, because we don't care. I'm like, yeah, 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 whatever. We ain't trying to impress nobody. We just trying to not be naked tomorrow, right? And so Walmart, but maybe Target might have been a better choice, because Target's a little classier than Walmart. But we didn't have much time, so don't judge us. But the point of the matter is to say that when you're talking about spending your money, you have to understand that your money is your power. And when you don't value what you have, you tend to give it away very easily. You tend to give it away easily. A young girl who doesn't value her body is going to share it with people who don't deserve to have access to it. A young man who doesn't value his presence is going to share it with just anybody, just because he's looking to be validated or loved. He's looking for love in all the wrong places. And the same thing is true when it comes to economic love. When you're talking about your 1.6 trillion, that is a powerful asset that you have. And one of the symbols, one of the keys of economic success is specifically targeting where you place that economic power. Your economic power is like a gun. And in order for a gun to really work effectively, you can't go spray the gun everywhere. You have to pick your target, aim carefully, and hit the target repeatedly, and then you will actually achieve the goal. You will actually make progress toward the goal. But instead, we're trained to just spend our money just freely with anybody. And part of that is also a lack of understanding of what other people are doing with that economic power. I mean, there are people who are taking Black economic power and using that economic power against Black people. And it's not just your economic power, it's other forms of wealth that you're transferring. When you get up and you go to work every day for that corporation that does nothing for your community, well, you're transferring out economic power. Right. So when you go buy consumer products from businesses that what we are talking about, from businesses that don't support you, you're transferring that economic power. So the best way to address that issue, in my view, or to apply the target, the T in the cost model, is to be very specific, very intentional, very conscious. There's that word consciousness, very conscious about where you put your money, and you do it based on what your values are. You don't do it based on trying to impress people, or because somebody told you to do it, or do it without thinking. A lack of economic consciousness is one of the multi-trillion-dollar wealth transfers that occurs in the Black community every year. Because I want you to think about, how much do people really think about where they're actually spending their money? People don't think about it. They just go buy stuff that they need. They get it from whoever. Well, maybe they'll buy stuff for all the wrong reasons. Well, you're going to be different. I want you to have consciousness to say, if I'm going to give you my money, I need to know what you're doing with that money, and also I need to know that there's going to be reciprocity. So what's one practical application? The mafia has a rule that if you're part of the family and you have a big score and you're making a whole bunch of money, the first thing you do is you turn right back to the family. This is applied in the rules of the 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power, Section 2, where we talk about support Black-owned businesses whenever possible. We talk about turning it back into the family. So if I have a big score in my life and I'm trying to figure out what am I going to do with all these extra resources, and I need to go hire someone to do something or whatever, I'm not going to go get a stranger. I'm going to turn back to the people that are right next to me. And I'm going to check that inner circle first. And then if the inner circle can't deliver what I need, then I'll go to an outer circle beyond that. But each time I'm layering outward to the point where the strangers are last. The strangers aren't first, but we don't typically think that way. We will go hire or pay a stranger before we go pay the people around us, which becomes very self-defeating. Because if you feed the ecosystem, then the ecosystem will feed you. All of economics is basically a circular reciprocal ecosystem where I'm hooking you up, you're hooking me up, and the more I do for you, the more you're going to do for me. Do you understand? So keep that in mind when you're talking about targeting your money. Your money really is your power, and if you use it effectively, then you can achieve a lot of your objectives. The understanding of the targeting of economics is also a general rule that is applied by the most powerful economic entities on the planet. The Chinese government, they are absolute masters at targeting their economic power. They are masters at economic warfare. We'll end today's class by going full circle back to what I was saying earlier about Snoop and Master P. Snoop and Master P, well, their product not being distributed by Post and Walmart saying, hey, we're down, we'll distribute your product, but then they actually don't. What they're basically doing is they're saying one thing and they're doing another. They're not looking for the smoke on the front. They're going to tell you what you want to hear, but then they're going to do what they want to do, right? And the Chinese government, they are notorious for doing that. If you go to China and you speak against the government or you piss off the government officials on some level, you know what they're going to do? They're not going to fight you. They're not going to get ghetto with you. They're going to smile in your face and they're going to say, okay, all right. Yes, very nice. That's very nice. And then next thing you know, you're gonna get home and nothing's gonna work. You're gonna have an embargo on your shores. Your products won't or are gonna get stopped at the port. You're gonna have tariffs put on anything you're trying to import into China. Right? They're gonna shut you down. But because they operate in a stealth mode, right? They don't necessarily have to go on Front Street and announce everything that they're doing. And this is what economic warfare actually looks like. And then what China also does is they target their economics in spaces where they want to have more influence. The United States uses economic warfare through targeting all throughout the globe. That's one of the ways that how do you think they control Black people? Well, they think about your economics. They want to keep you economically on edge. They want to keep you economically desperate. They want to keep you economically dependent. And that's why people like me or the guy behind me, Mr. Marcus Garvey, were seen as some of the most dangerous Black people in the planet, even though we're not criminals at all. We're not out hurting anybody, but we're seen as dangerous because we're explaining to you ways to detach yourself from their particular economic ecosystem. Every system they have, you can have on your own, but you have to be willing to do the work and you have to have the patience in order to let these systems grow. You're not going to build a Walmart in a week. So Snoop Dogg and Master P, let's just circle back with that so we can finish up. If they really want the community to benefit from this lawsuit, they will also sit down with a plan, and I'll be happy to help them with the plan. I do it for free. I offer to help Kanye for free. I helped Ice Cube for free. I don't want any money from any of these celebrities at all. I would be happy to tell them everything I know because my knowledge is not mine. It's for everyone. And they need a plan. Like, okay, how are we going to flip this into obtaining the level of financing required for us to go out and invest, say, $500 million to begin that process of starting that chain of Black-owned grocery stores that we can then scale up to have our own distribution channels. That's when you have real power. That's when you have real power. That's when you can create something like hip hop and not have it stolen from you. That's when Tyler Perry or whoever is making their movies and they can control the whole process, right? This is how the Rockefellers and the Carnegies and all the JP Morgans, this is how all those people acquired massive amounts of wealth and power. They did it by understanding the entire system, the entire process. And this is nothing new. Dr. Claude Anderson explains all this in his book. And what is the title of that book? Let's honor Dr. Anderson. Everybody type the title of Dr. Anderson's #1 book in this chat. What is that book called? Let's say his name so we can celebrate this great man on this Friday morning. We'll type his name in the chat. Everybody needs to understand those principles. Everybody should. That's how you get the real power. All right. Okay. So I'm done. By the way, some of you were asking, how do we get access to the Prime program? You can go to drboyceprime.com if you want, or you can go to boycewatkins.com. There's that training, how to make money without working. If you want, I can text it to you. So if you text the word morning to 87948, morning, MORNING, that's the word for these consciousness trainings that we do. I will send you all a link. I'll send it out right now with a link to watch the training, how to make money without working, so you can take a look and see what we're doing in our stock options program. I think it's worth looking at. I think there's a lot of power there that a lot of us aren't introduced to. All right, so have a good day, everybody. I hope this conversation was worth it. I went a whole hour and a half. I was only planning on going out 45 minutes, but make sure you text the word morning right now to 87948. I'm gonna send the link out literally in the next 15 minutes. If you're not watching live, then sorry, you can go to the website, but for those of you that are on the list, I'll send it to you now. All right, have a good day, everybody. Thank you for listening. It was good to see you, and I hope you have a great and prosperous day and a wonderful weekend. See you soon. Bye.